Hello. Welcome to the Make It While You Fake It podcast. A podcast about running a custom furniture and woodworking business while also trying to start a community makerspace outside of Philly. All without having any formal education in woodworking or in business. I'm Dan Skirma from Woe Shop Woodworking and Monco Makers, and I'm glad that you're here with us.
Magnetic.
All right. We're back. What are you doing?
I was moving the drill bit and I just discovered it's magnetic. I've never seen a magnetic drill bit.
This really?
Yeah, most of them aren't magnetic.
You are so far away from the mic again.
How's that?
So much better. Welcome. Well, it's just Mike and me today, so God knows this could go in any direction at all.
So let's speak about Tom Brady.
If you have not seen the roast of Tom Brady, it is pretty awesome, especially when he had to tell Jeff Ross at some point that he crossed the line and he had to stop. He played it off, but it was like one of those. He went and whispered in his ear, and he's like, and they just kind of kept going, but he veered away from a direction he was going. Pretty funny. But yeah, they ripped into him. Every single person up there that talks about Giselle.
Oh, that's harsh.
Absolutely. At one point, Ron Burgundy showed up. Will Ferrell in full character. It was ridiculous.
I guess I got to go watch it.
Yeah, it's worth it. But no, it's been a busy week for a couple of reasons. First, epoxy table was poured, and that's the top coat was poured. This is my first successful bar top epoxy execution.
Okay.
I've done a million epoxy projects, but anytime I've tried to do bar top, coat it, let it run off the sides, all that kind of stuff, it has never gone well for one reason or another.
What, you get like little nibs of stuff in it?
You get little nibs, high spots, low spots, or it's just not.
Don't you just go back and sand it and buff it?
You could, but that's the thing with a lot of the bar tops, you don't put anything on it. Like that's the whole point of it, is that it's done once it's secured. You don't have to top coat it or anything. The thing is, it's always been too thick where it doesn't just run off like water. And then I've underestimated almost every time, like how much I actually needed to coat the whole thing. So I went overboard and I poured way more than I needed. And then it ended up being just enough, which was ridiculous. But the trick was, it was only like 60 degrees in here. It's supposed to be like 75, 77, something like that.
So it settled out.
I put really hot, the hottest that the water temperature here would go in a bucket, and I soaked the 2-part epoxy, the bottles, before I poured them. I soaked them in the hot water to make them really, really loose and flowy. Mm-hmm. And then that worked because that was much more like a deep pour consistency.
How long does that take to dry?
It was dried to the touch by overnight.
Okay.
So it was only like 12, 14 hours later. It was dry to the touch, fully cured. I have to look at the bottle. It's probably 48, 72 hours to be fully cured. But yeah, that's it. Now I have the fun. That's the thing, not being someone with a plan generally, in general terms. If I were better at this and did this more often, I would have taped the bottom, and right at around 4 or 5 hours, you come back and you pull the tape off the bottom so you don't have all the nibs and the drips. Now I have to deal with that. But I've seen a guy just use a heat gun and a paint scraper, and it comes right off.
Really?
It softens it enough that you can scrape it off.
You could also go to the router.
I could do that. I could flush trim the whole thing.
You know how I do how I have the router set up?
Yeah.
It has a little groove in the base.
I could do that. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, that might be the faster way of doing it. Just chop it out there. And then I may recut the angle on the bottom, the chamfer that I have on the bottom.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's coming along. So that's there. And then we're going to.
So that definitely would require sanding and polishing then.
That So that little chamfer would then need to be finished. I might just might throw some water locks on that at that point, just to seal that up. But so that's coming along. And then in the storage unit, I got that little Pittsburgh Harbor Freight engine hoist. Got that assembled. So that's all working. So that's pretty much at the storage unit, ready to unload stuff off my truck, which is cool. That was very easy to put together. Like,
Oh, yeah.
stupid easy. What's fun is that they give you like
So easy.
9 bolts.
So easy, a 5-year-old could do it?
Pretty much. It's pretty much me with instructions. They give you like 9 bolts,
Mm-hmm.
and only 2 of them are the same.
Really?
The rest of them are all different sizes, thicknesses.
So you can't
Everything.
mess up.
And they don't really tell. And I'm pretty sure I had the wrong number of one of them. So you just start guessing at the end.
Ooh.
I'm like, whatever. Like whatever was the biggest bolt that fit in each of these holes, I'm like, all right, I'll just use that. And then if it fits, it fits. That's pretty much where that went. But so that's good. But what's fun is that I wanted to. So there's our buddy Lucas up in Massachusetts. He modified his where he allowed it to go on a ball hitch. He allowed it to go on the hitch of his truck, so you can just drive it with it hanging off the back.
Uh-huh.
So not too bad. Apparently, the square tube will actually fit over the hitch without the
Nice.
ball on it. So you can just drill a hole and put a bolt in there, and you're good to go. That's kind of cool. But then someone messaged me on Instagram. This girl that follows me that said that there is another thing that Harbor Freight sells, which I had never seen before. Like I've seen the little cranes that go on the back of a bed.
Yeah.
They have one that literally attaches to the inside and folds away, that it's not in your way when you don't need it, and it's literally just used to lift it off your bed and pivot to the outside of the bed and drop it.
Nice.
Which is actually pretty awesome. It was really, really cheap.
And this is Harbor Freight.
Yeah, she sent me a link to it. I'm like, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's this little guy.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
How awesome is that? And it's a 1/2-ton capacity pickup truck bed crane. Awesome. It's like $150. Now I have to try it.
No, there's a small
$119.
there's a small subject for today is the good and bad of Harbor Freight.
Dude, some of their stuff is awesome. Some of their stuff is so cheap, it's worth getting every time.
The black squeeze clamps with the red feet.
Yeah.
They're the best on the market.
They're awesome.
They have little V grooves, crosswise and horizontal.
Yep.
That you can put on, it catches round material. So if you're clamping together a chair, it makes it easy.
Yeah. Yep.
They're well made. They reverse.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be able to get a 5-foot one. I think the smallest nail our largest is now 4 foot long.
Okay. Yeah.
The 5-foot was great.
Yeah.
I was actually flipping it around, and with a small block, I was using it to adjust uppers for kitchens.
Nice. Oh yeah, absolutely. So they finally have that they had that in Lowe's. Irwin makes one now with the little skinny foot with the squeeze thing. And it raises it and whatever. But whatever. It's just a gadget. No, some of the Harbor Freight stuff is great. I had for years. I put together their trailer one time. Their 4x8 trailer. What a pain in the ass that was. Like when I was doing that, I was following a blog with videos that a guy put together, and he said, you have to watch this if you get this, because I will decrypt all the wrong instructions and I will tell you how to do it. But that was ridiculous because I had to put it together, and then the only tools other than wrenches and screwdrivers and basic stuff that you needed was you just needed to pack the bearings for the wheels.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't come pre-greased.
One of his things were, they say they come pre-greased. They're absolutely not. They're not roadworthy.
So you actually pulled the hub.
Yeah.
It's not like you put a bearing buddy in there. And
No.
It's just you pulled the hub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was enough.
Even with the bearing buddy.
Yeah.
because I just redid my boat trailer.
Okay.
You really do have to pack the bearings.
Yeah.
And then sit it in there, and you can bearing buddy the hell out of it afterwards.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
you have to work it into
Yeah.
the bearings because by the time they run, they've already started scoring up.
Yeah. Well, I remember I moved my shop, so similar to this makerspace, where I now have a storage unit where I'm putting stuff when we finally open. When I was in my apartment across the street, I lived across the street for 3 years. I built a workshop worth of tools in a storage unit before I had any shop, because I knew this was inevitable. So I bought the Unisaw and all that stuff that I had in storage.
Now you wish you had that back.
We'll get one. They're everywhere.
I know.
But I loaded up that Harbor Freight crappy 4x8 trailer with a Unisaw, a drill press, a planer, everything. That thing was so rickety. It was one of those things where I didn't use Loctite in anything. So like as I would drive down the road, the thing would just get looser and loose. But to make it legal in Pennsylvania, I had to go get it weighted or weighed at the service station, which was easy. And then I had to get it inspected. And the guy that inspected it, he goes, "Oh man." I was like, "What?" And he tested all the lights. He's like, "No, these lights work." I didn't even know. I had no idea what I was doing. So he fixed all that kind of stuff. But that little 4x8 thing, especially if you welded that together, it'd be 10 times better.
Oh yeah.
You weld it, and then it's a legit trailer for light duty stuff. It's fine if you're just going picking up stuff. But yeah, I had that. So the Harbor Freight trailer was fine for what it is.
I had one of the little like 4x6 ones that you had.
Oh yeah.
Thing lasted like 30 years.
Oh, dude, they're awesome. So that was great. The clamps are great. The dust collector is great.
The Bauer stuff is decent.
Is it? I've never really used it.
So my Makita stuff.
What is it? Bauer and Hercules? They sell both of those? Or is Hercules? Do they make the same stuff? Is it just drills and stuff? Because it seems like Bauer, there's a tool of everything.
Yeah, I think it's just a grade difference.
Okay.
But one of the problems with my Makita stuff or my Milwaukee stuff, like my drill's 3/8 chuck.
Yeah.
Well, you throw a 1/2-inch drill bit in there, it kind of sucks. You can't do it.
Yeah.
So I picked up the Bauer 1/2-inch chuck hammer drill.
Yeah.
It's an all-in-one.
Mm-hmm.
I've put in quite a number of cement.
Nice.
Using the hammer drill. It has not failed yet.
That's cool.
It feels decent.
Nice.
Everything works on it. It's smooth. It's kind of impressive.
I mean, that's the
For
first.
what it was. It was like $36.
That's not bad.
I think that's what it was.
And again, the price point is worth the price point's worth trying. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So that's the first Bauer tool I bought, was just that little cordless planer, because I just want to have that out in the lumberyard, because at this point everything in the lumberyard is just gray, and you can guess within like one or two species, like two species what it is before I even look at it.
Yeah, everything's either maple,
right.
or maple.
But that's the thing.
Which one it is?
Well, and the thing is that we have stacks of lumber in 2 or 3 slabs deep, with just 4-foot long stickers between all of them. But it was whatever we milled on that same day.
Yeah.
So you'll have like 4 levels of walnut, then 3 levels of ash, then maple, then more ash, then whatever. So like a lot of it looks the same now because it's gray, but you don't know what it is.
When you were stacking it, were you stacking it as flitches or?
So most of the time I always would do a flitch. When Jake would mill, he would mill and try to stack everything just to be flat so he could put pallets under them and move them around.
Yeah.
So he stacked his just all flat in a row and then put stickers in all flat in a row.
Because like if you go to Nakashima, everything is
I always did flitches.
Flitch milled.
Yeah.
And pretty much top to bottom. He wasn't flipping the log and doing.
Well, I like stacking in flitches for, a couple of reasons. One, you could book match easily because everything's right there. 2, just the way that you stack, as long as you keep that first one, it just natural runoff and the water doesn't really slay on it too much. Water that with like high winds, it's going to get in there regardless, whatever. But for the most part, general stuff, it hides it. It hides from the sun directly, just from the circle shape. Like you don't get a lot of sun hitting on the insides of them.
And I also think it's a selling point because if somebody comes in, they go like,
oh, they can
hey,
buy the
I
whole
can
thing.
get my whole project out of one log.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yep.
The color's going to be consistent.
Yep. No, and I would always sell sequential cuts too when I would sell out of my garage and my yard and stuff. Yeah, no, I like stacking that way. The annoying thing is that it's just you have to take more time to like stack it properly, and you can't. Even once they start drying and it starts to warp even a little bit, you can strap it as much as you want, but you can't go that high with them. And we had a space problem, so we were just trying to stack, piles on piles on piles of lumber. So eventually he got four stacks tall with his dimensional and then his just flat stacked stuff.
Now, would you like an indoor warehouse to stack this sort of stuff?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Now I would air dry it for 9 months and then just take it inside. Because you're not going to get, if you start from the mill and just put it inside, it's never going to dry. There's just no airflow. Unless you have fans and dehumidifiers and all that kind of crap. But if you have no airflow, no wind from outside, it's just going to take forever. And that's why some guys, it's funny. I've had guys bring lumber in here to mill and process. They're like, I milled it and I put it in my garage. It's been there for 2 years. I'm like, only in your garage? It's like, oh man. And when you look at it, I was like, this shit's wet still.
Some of the stuff I used to put in my attic.
Oh, it got hot in there. Oh yeah. Actually, that's not a bad spot for it. Actually,
well, it's a traditional place to put lumber.
Yeah. Well, and also because like seasonal changes, got like it gets hot during the day and then it cools off. Like it's like a solar kiln. Solar kiln gives you the most stable lumber because it relaxes fibers at night. But no, I mean going back to like Harbor Freight stuff. I mean, I just got that planer for the lumberyard. But it does lead into another discussion, actually. So my problem for the last couple of weeks has been proving demand for the makerspace. I know there's a need, but there needs to be a want, and people need to be willing to actually pay for this and like take classes and all that stuff. So I've gotten advice from a couple different people, especially marketing people, recently. They were like, if you need to prove it, then you got to start demoing and start showing people it. So start doing classes. And my first thing was, well, we're not doing classes here. It's not set up for it. It's not safe for people. I'm certainly not having kids in here unless we'd have to clear out. Like every time we've had scouts in here, we've had to clean for days. Like it's just not worth it. So the guy that I was talking to said, well, if you know these local groups of people, there are a million halls that you can rent and rooms you could rent and like little demo areas and auditoriums and vacant building. I mean, our town has half the buildings are vacant. He's like, you could, if you just talk to people, they'd probably like, yeah, I'll give it to you for an hour, whatever. If you want to demo some things, like have people over for an hour. And I started calling around.
So what would we do? Haul the table saw, the joiner, the planer.
That's where Harbor Freight comes in. So I'm going to be getting a small subset of tools that are like essentially.
Say it's a Harbor Freight bench.
It's not a Harbor Freight bench.
That's one of the things that is not worth.
No. So it's either Harbor Freight or Wen. To get joiner, planer, table saw, bandsaw, and that's it. That and a dust collector. We have a million of them already. But have those things probably on Gumby. Because what else is Gumby doing? I'm only going to be doing it locally in town. Drive Gumby over, set up in a hall, run a class for free. Just, hey, so I talked to
basically just get attendance and all that, or
get attendance, get feedback on the class, get people to sign up for the classes preemptively for like $1 or something, just so like.
Now, can you use another makerspace shop as an example?
What do you mean as an example?
Like a competitor that is sort of in the area.
There aren't many, but yeah, there's the one.
There's the one.
Yeah.
and use them as, hey, look, they're very successful.
Yeah.
We're outside of their area, so we're not really competing.
Yeah. Also, so based on this entrepreneurship course, that doesn't work when talking to banks. So because they're just because they're doing it that way doesn't mean you do it that way, or you're too different, or you're different enough. But the main thing is you're trying to be plus one from there anyway. So you don't want to compare to them regardless. It makes a lot of sense because you're just there is a demand. They have members, of course. But it's weird. The banks don't want to hear comparisons like that.
The question is, how much, even though it's say there's a demand, say there's the amount of people, you have to get in contact with that amount of people.
That's why this is also part of the getting out there actually in the public and doing this. So I have an open line now with all the Boy Scouts. They have 120 kids between 10 and 15 meet every week with parents. A lot of people meet at the local church in town in the hall under the church, and they have their meetings and they do all whatever. They're if you wanted to put on demos, everyone's there. If you needed to pass stuff out, if you wanted to whatever, but you could organize and schedule it around that. We already have the hall. I'm well, that's too many people. That's too many people. But I could use that for a sign up thing. Be all right, on Thursday this week at this location at this time, we're having a free class. I have 20 spots available, and I could do it for the kids, but I can also do it for adults or whatever. And just do a real quick class. I would like to have the printed materials looking really nice already, so it looks professional.
So basically, you need the shop to get the business and get the loan, but you need the loan to get the business.
Exactly. So this is the way of proving that all this feedback and these testimonials and all this kind of crap. You're I took the class. Class was great. I would definitely take more classes. Whatever, and then have people sign up for classes already before we're even open. For a very small amount of literally $5 sign up for a class, because it's something that you're they gave me some money. It's not a lot, but they at least they wanted to take it enough to give you something. And just that alone will prove that there is a demand for it. So it's interesting. I think that's going to be a challenge, but that is also going to get a lot of word out. And then I'm going to start going to the farmers markets and doing the same thing because they're packed.
Well, this area is also big at the Grange Fair.
Grange Fair is going to be a huge thing this year. August. I'm definitely signing up for that.
And I know who does the judging.
Exactly. Yep. No, that's definitely happening. Grange Fair is definitely going to happen. Going to have a little booth there. It'd be great if I can go to a spot where I can make some noise, because they have a couple things there that are loud.
I think they would allow that.
I think so too. I mean, they have the whole carnival there. It's loud as hell there.
They have plows and
that's what I mean.
Else
they got everything. They got everything. They have Gumby there. They have a different Gumby that's an ambulance that's there, in full service.
Oh, I know. I sent you the picture of it because it showed up. I'm
it's
awesome.
Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah.
You're exactly. Yeah, that guy's here all over the place.
Yep. So the guy that I was talking to, this marketing guy, a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Philly Small Business Expo. I met some people there. One of the keynote speakers there, this guy named John Formica, and he worked for Disney. And his whole shtick is, what if Disney ran your company? What would they do? And that's his stick. He in the 80s, in the 80s, his job was Disney approached him and said, hey, we're going to start building resorts at our park. We want you to be in charge of it.
Nice.
So he built, under his direction, he built the themes and the customer experience and everything of all the Disney in-park hotels. Which is funny because within the first, 2 minutes of him speaking, he goes, I don't believe in customer service. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a waste of time and money. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? He's like, because of your customer experience is so good and so tight and so awesome, you're not going to need customer service. Your experience is already going to be that good. And he just went down this whole path of everything. And if you went to the Small Business Expo and went to his talk, he gave you a 45-minute free call to talk to him. So I talked to him last week, and it was very insightful. It's not a sales pitch at all. It's just him talking about your business, how to market it better, like what is your challenge, and all this kind of stuff. And his main thing was you need to be able to demo it so that you could say this is the demand. And he's got my wheels turning. He's like, well, it doesn't have to be at your shop. You can take your shop somewhere else. And I was like, well, no, I can't. If I had small tools, I could. That'd be really easy. And honestly, that's the whole selling feature of classes is if you walk away knowing how to make stuff, you don't have to be a member here. You can make stuff at your house. So it's actually, it kind of lines up with the whole philosophy.
Do you know what the population, have you done like a 10-mile radius?
They have them. They have them in, because a couple of the local shopping centers that have gone up have published all that data, especially for, that actually drives a lot of this because all of the population that is coming, a new population coming to this area are moving into townhouses and apartments that don't have basements or garages or anything. So they don't have any room for hobbies like this at all. And they're all looking for stuff to do.
Is Council Rock covered by here or is it a different school?
That's a different school.
Okay. What's their school system here?
It's Upper Moreland and Hapero Horsham.
Do we know the population of the school?
I mean, my daughter is in the primary school. In her one grade, her primary school is from kindergarten to 5th grade. In her grade is 200 kids. So there are about 1,000 kids in that and about 1,000 kids in the high school. So on one campus, at around 2,000 kids. Hapero Horsham, I'm pretty sure is a similar size. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is.
Because if you can figure that one out, one of the main things that you were getting feedback was kids stuff. They want.
I know.
So if you know what the population of the kids in the area are, you almost can figure out a percentage of how many would be involved.
Probably. And honestly, every activity we've gotten our kids in is flooded. Like every activity is flooded. Like karate has 40 kids every Saturday morning, and they have kids classes in karate 6 days a week. Like the Kid Strong program, which was essentially like CrossFit Kids kind of a thing, packed. Actual CrossFit Kids at our CrossFit gym, packed. Sports are packed. Cub Scouts is packed. Like all of it's packed. There are kids everywhere around here.
Even just how much is what's the quantity of people in your CrossFit?
Man, I don't know. I feel like several hundred. Yeah, several hundred. I feel like there are probably 300 paying members there, between 250, 300 members.
Now, have you figured out how many members you're going to have for your break?
75.
That's it?
Yep. So I break even at 75. That is also with assumptions. That's with, as far as my research has gone, that is employee salaries plus benefits, insurance, rent, electricity, all the stuff that I've done research in, assuming that that's what those prices actually should come out to be, I can get by with 75 members with half-filled classes.
How many people does Philly have?
They have between 200 and 300 members every month, and most of them don't show up. And that's the thing. Most members really, they do their project, and then they take a break, and then they come back, and they whatever, and they come for the social aspect, and they don't really do stuff. That's the thing. I started trying to go down the road of, having a lumberyard on site. How much lumber would I sell? How would you even begin to figure that out? You don't know how many. Then I started how many projects is a member doing a month? It's like one, maybe one. Most of them aren't coming. That's what I mean. After you've been there for a while, it's something like a gym membership where people just keep paying it, and they'll come in when they want to come in, but they're not going to be there every day. Even at the other place, Jake said there's only at a hot time of year, like October, November, when people are making Christmas gifts, there still might be like a dozen to 15 people there at a time. And normally it's less than that, which is interesting. So yeah, that's why I feel like building a better vibe for this one, where people can just hang out, have coffee, talk about stuff, and then build some stuff.
Yeah, the vibe was not good there.
No, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like we can build a better vibe where people want to just hang out while they're making stuff. They don't just have to make their stuff heads down and then leave.
So we have the cigar lounge off to the side then.
You know, that's a great idea. You know, Rocky Patel was at the local cigar place last week. It's my favorite cigar. He looks like the most interesting man in the world guy. He's just the man. But yeah, so I think I'm now essentially pursuing kind of a marketing plan of I'm trying to find a person to write up plans, like nice looking plans to go along with classes for basic stuff. I mean, all these things with basic tools are going to be all basic stuff. It's going to be cutting boards and like signs. Like,
I said the other week, I was always amazed working from this shop or that shop. I did a lot of floating. You know, somebody would call me in if they had a project, that sort of thing. I was always amazed at how many people in the profession had very large gaps in their knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many shops I'd walked into. There wasn't a hand plane in the entire shop.
No, not at all.
Yeah. We can do that with the belt sander.
You could, I guess.
Sort of.
That is a way.
I like belt sanders. They serve a purpose for a lot of things.
Sure. Yeah. Not the fine stuff.
Not the fine stuff. I mean, and I like power tools. I like hand tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, power tool gets you 95% there, and the hand tools get you the other 5%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I think this is the way that I'm going to get more word out locally and get people to sign up for stuff. And I'm not going to do it yet. When it gets a little closer, I'll start having people actually sign up for classes and prepay for stuff. But
my town has in Pennington, they have Pennington Day, which you can rent space on the side of the street.
Oh, nice.
And actually do something like that if you wanted to do something
that's
basic.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Right.
Does Hatboro have anything like that?
There are several days throughout the year that Hatboro is like everyone goes downtown. The parade's not a good one for Christmas because it's cold. That's not really a time.
No,
plus that's only like 2 hours long.
May is when Pennington
Day. The car show is a very popular day in Hatboro because the town is literally filled with antique cars, but then they have every booth and everything under the sun out and about.
So we basically throw the joiner, the table saw, and the planer on top of Gumby, drive it there, park it, and do demos in the middle of the car show.
Yep. And have it run off a generator. Be awesome.
Showing my mobile shop truck.
Dude, at Maker Camp they had all blank. What were they? They were blank like 1x3 pieces of wood that were 4 feet long, and people had shave horses that they sat down and they shaved down to fit into an axe head. And it was packed the entire camp for 4 days. People loved it because they'd never touched a hand tool. So like shaving like little strips off was so satisfying, and they were fitting it into axe heads. Dude, people were sitting there for like an hour and a half doing this. They loved it.
It's really sad when you look at how many kids are stuck to the phone or the computer.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And not one of them has picked up a tool.
No.
In their entire life. I mean, I did a safety course for the engineering class, and it was like, I say, okay, how many people have used a power drill? And you have one kid in the entire class raise their hand.
Yeah.
Or you have, how many have you used a saw? None of them raise their hands.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
We've gone into a different world now.
Well, and that's the thing. But it's still the basic. They're just chasing dopamine, and they're chasing satisfaction. And like when you start using hand tools and stuff, and you start gluing stuff up and making stuff yourself, the satisfaction there is through the roof when you've actually made it yourself and you're like proud of it, and it's this cool thing. Like my kids now draw whatever crap that they draw but they're so happy about it. I'm like, that's great, whatever, you know, play it up. But I mean, it's horrible.
It really is a shame that you didn't know Jake when Art All Night was happening.
I did not. So is Jake drawing with crayons too at Art All Night?
Yes,
Nice.
he usually does. But we would build
using the cray pods and eating them. And
one of the things with Art All Night is they would do. You could submit one piece.
Okay.
And they'd have 40,000 people going through this.
That's cool.
This
dude, we could reincarnate that dude.
But what's nice about it is you were there against somebody that had a $20,000 piece.
Sure.
And a kid with a refrigerator art.
Yeah, right.
It didn't matter.
No, that's
and
cool.
You had, thousands of art pieces that were brought in.
That's awesome. It was literally all night long.
All night long.
Gallery, live gallery, just bring your stuff.
Started at 3 p.m. and went straight Saturday and then went straight through to Sunday, 3 p.m.
What hours did the weirdos come out?
Around 2 o'clock.
2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds about it. 2 a.m. is kind of like that. Yeah. Between 2 to 3.
So it started
was it
out
Satan's hours at 3 a.m.?
Yeah. It would start out as like a family fun thing with the kids.
Uh-huh.
And then it progressed to,
and weirder.
Normal party crowd.
Yep. They'd all pop some pills at midnight, and by 2 a.m.
Then it was like the punk crowd. Then it just got freakier and freakier until you got about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, Jake and I, we each would usually make table or chair.
Cool.
So we would set up the table. We'd sit at the table. We'd have food and drink and everything else. And we're there just watching. Hate to say it this way, but we were watching the freaks go by.
Absolutely.
Actually met the weed man there too. He sat down and drank with us.
Hell yeah.
But every shift of the people that came in that, for lack of a better word, bouncer.
Yeah.
The people that were in charge of it, that were security or whatever, they'd be trying to kick us off of our table. We're like, no, dude, we're part of the artwork.
Yeah. Like, what do you do? You can't be eating here. But like, yeah, but look at all the crap around me. I'm building some stuff too. Whatever.
Well, it was very, very Wild West. It really was just anything goes. And the nice thing was the gangs in Trenton basically had a truce for Art All Night. It was like nothing. You do not do anything.
Yeah. It's like, this is actually a cool event, guys. Just leave it alone.
Exactly. So
that's cool.
It was one of the coolest things. And we'd sit there. We'd get drunk till the freaks came out, and then we kind of ease off on the alcohol.
Sober up a little bit.
Sobered up until we were.
So you didn't get stolen.
And it was just a fun time.
Dude, that's fun.
The last one we went to, Jake and I are sitting there, and this is after they had an incident there, so they had gates and security.
Sure.
And in walks like Marcus Aurelius. This kid had a loincloth, a shield, a helmet, and a sword. That was it.
Nice.
And I mean, there was more square inches of fabric on my wallet than on this loincloth.
Really went for it, huh?
The only thing they took away from him was his sword.
Yeah, you can't have the sword. Just don't do any lunges, please.
Oh.
Nice.
There were thongs with more square footage of fabric.
See, you know what? Okay, fine. We'll have a Monco all night. we'll have a weird time one time a year. I'm all for it. Why not? That sounds good.
I'm for it.
Why not? Well, let's bring it back. If it was a good time, let's bring it back. Yeah, no, that's where I'm at with that. I think it's a good way to get some word out while I finish up all these other things. I only have 2 weeks left in this entrepreneurship course, and then I have to present the final completed business plan to the panel, which would be interesting. And then I'll
Shark Tank.
And then that's check off in my milestone first draft done, and then I get it torn apart by like several people. And that's when I'll give it to a couple trusted people, yourself included, and be like, literally tear it apart. Like, poke every hole in it. I don't care. I have no feelings against this whatsoever. I need it to actually work. So that's it.
I mean, it's nice that Jake has an inside view of how one of these makerspaces
It is good.
runs.
Yep. It is good. And I'm trying to get owners of other makerspaces to be on the podcast. So I'm in the works of getting a couple of people on that have done that as well.
So are they
give some of
they're
the
going to
inside
come
baseball
here, or you're going to do it remotely?
So with StreamYard, with the software we use, we can have call in. We'll all need headphones.
Okay.
But we can figure it out. We'll make it
cool.
Work. Yeah. But I think that'd be really cool. And get a little bit of insider baseball in there. Be like, this company here that says they do literally this company Next Insurance, they literally insure makerspaces. Like that's their insurance. But I'm like,
oh, by the way, before that, did you see the saw stop version of the having a shaper table?
the one where you don't even get close to it.
No, this one.
I haven't seen the shaper one. No, I have. I sent it to Jake before.
It just boom stops.
Yeah, I sent it to Jake before with the comment I might actually use a shaper because of that. Did you see the newest technology that's not saw stop? The one with the lasers and everything?
I've seen that. That looks nice.
I feel like that would be more annoying than anything because there are times when I have my fingers close to the blade in a very controlled, slow manner because I'm pushing wood through it. But I feel like that would be a little too sensitive and just shut off.
Well, that's another reason why I said we would have another section.
I would think so because honestly, if you're using push sticks and doing it the real safe way, where your hands are nowhere near it, then yeah, I can see where that would work in a member shop. But that thing is so expensive.
I mean, even here, I think I'm 6 or 7 sets of joiner blades in.
Yep. From
someone hitting a nail.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like we shouldn't even have nails in here and like they just show up. I don't understand it. But
do we have a magnetic one of the wands, don't we?
Apparently they don't work. Apparently they don't work like worth a damn. I have one. I bought one and as soon as I opened it, Jake goes, yeah, that doesn't work. I'm like, well, that sucks. And then I started going down and trying to find a good one, and they're so expensive that I would never use it.
I messed up a joiner so bad with a bullet in the wood.
Did you actually feel it jump, or did it cut right through it and not notice?
Through it.
Yeah, they always do somehow.
It definitely messed up the blades royally.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was clean slice, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing. We've definitely gotten staples and shit like that through there. Actually, what's the guy? This guy, Bourbon Moth Woodworking. You're not a YouTube guy, so I'll just tell you. If you look up Bourbon Moth, he just did a saw stop video because he's not sponsored by them. So he's like, I'm actually going to tell you all the real stuff because he's like, I've heard a ton of stuff where it triggers it on wet wood. It triggers it on charred wood because of the carbon content. It's like it triggers it on this and that. He goes, we are going to actually see what triggers it. And he triggered it, I think, 10 or 12 times. He bought 10 or 12 brakes, and he tried all these different things.
Well, one day I was here.
That one is a complete anomaly.
It wasn't even turned on. It wasn't even turned on, and I was 20 feet away from the saw.
That's a fault. That was a faulty brake.
And all of a sudden I hear, ka-thunk.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
So it did not trigger at all on any wet wood he put through it. He soaked a 2x4 in the river for 2 days.
Really?
Took it out, put it through the saw. It did not trip.
What about a pin nail?
The pin nail did not trigger it. I've gone through nails. It doesn't trigger it. So he said, and I've always heard this too, it'll only trigger if the circuit is complete, right? So if you hit a nail on the end, and he did this with like a lot of the staples that are on the ends, like the end grain of like 2x4s and stuff. He went through 1 million of those. It doesn't trip it. If it's connected to you, it does. So like we tripped it once because the metal slide, the slider that we had on it went through while you're touching the slide. It hit it and that trips it. But then he said, and then he tried going through metal without touching it. It absolutely tripped. It tripped without him touching it. He had like a piece of aluminum on the front of a sled, like a wooden plywood sled, like a crosscut sled. And he put it through there. It immediately tripped without even blinking an eye. But it was an interesting video because he's like, people say all this stuff, and until you've tried it, you have no idea.
I like the idea of it.
Oh, well, of course.
But
yeah,
it was a headache.
It was. Now, I will say this. If we had the 5 horsepower, even the 7.5, which is insane,
then we'd be blowing breakers all the time.
Yeah, that would not be good here. But in the makerspace, if you had a higher horsepower one, which at least would not bog down, I think that was my biggest gripe, is that it was tripping breakers because it was bogging down all the time.
I didn't like the trunnions on the saw.
Yeah.
They were really, really teeny.
Yeah.
I'm used to like the Powermatics, the Unisaws.
Yeah.
And even the Grizzlies are fairly decent.
Yep.
But that looked like it was taken off of a little contractor saw.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it just needed maintenance a lot more than we gave it. On top of
From what I hear, they
smaller.
need a ton of maintenance.
If you want it to be smooth for a long time, then yes. It seems like we had to replace so many pieces in that, and we don't use it every day. Like, we're not here every day to use it every day. I can't imagine if that thing was on most of every day being used.
The dust collection was horrible.
That was horrible.
This one's probably worse, though.
This one is worse. It's absolutely worse.
The Laguna is definitely got a worse dust collection.
This one's horrible. This one came with the riving knife with the port on the top, which I feel like I need to like hook up somehow. But again, here
I always found they got in the way.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just another thing in the way.
I like riving knives, but
I feel really uncomfortable not having the riving knife on it.
I love them on them.
Especially when I'm taking wood from out in the lumber yard and coming in here, ripping a live edge off, and then joining it and trying to cut off the other side. A lot of it just either gets case hardened or it pinches or
now,
whatever.
Would you want a slide saw in the makerspace as well?
I don't know. I would like one for myself personally. I really did like it. I liked having it as an option.
I'm not talking about like the slide that we had on the
like an actual slide.
I'm talking about a real European slide saw.
Yeah. What's that brand? Howitzer or something? What the hell is it? Howitzer? Not Howitzer. There's a brand that is. There are a couple of them on Facebook Market now that are sliders, like actual true sliders. They're huge. They're just so big. I would love one. I especially would like one for plywood because I hate using track saws on plywood.
So believe it or not, we did have one.
Yeah.
I've worked at places that have had them.
I mean, cabinet places use it for plywood all day long, right?
Yeah. It's great, but I find that a standard American version table saw like the Unisaw or the Powermatic 66 is a more versatile tool.
Yeah.
If you're making one-off furniture, it's great.
Yeah.
Having a slide saw is fantastic because, like your live edge, you could actually stick and clamp that.
Oh, I love
right
it.
on it.
That's freaking awesome. I love it.
This was it.
I love it.
And be done.
Yeah, they have a 10-foot throw on each side.
But I did so much more with a regular table saw.
Sure.
Now, I also took, because I had the Unifence, the Unifence, the actual fence part of it, the aluminum, had a little too much flex.
It did. Yeah, I actually thought that mine was curved at one point because it was throwing me off. Because if I pressed against it too tightly, it was actually kind of bending the front out.
But if you replace that with the boxed version that Peachtree had, it's great.
Yeah, that 80-20 stuff.
And then what I did was I actually put a T-track going parallel to the saw.
Yep.
It's
yeah.
And then I drilled a hole through the Peachtree, and I could actually run a T-nut and one of the little winged nuts.
Sure. Yeah, hold the whole thing down.
Lock it into place. If I was ripping, 3-inch oak, I could do that, lock that in, lock it down, just so the fact that I knew it wasn't moving.
Yeah, right.
But it's such a neat fence to be able to put certain stops. And as a matter of fact, the Jessam rollers will fit on the Peachtree.
Do they make Jessam rollers with a T-slot attachment, or is it all? Do you have to just drill it in? So I've seen a couple people. I've seen a couple people that have used those and put those on their saw stops, and they needed to drill through the fence.
Yeah, because you didn't have a T-track and a fence, but the Peachtree one does have T-tracks in the fence.
That's cool. No, I like that.
And since it's a boxed cord extruded aluminum, it's very stiff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can get them.
We could put one on this.
Oh yeah,
I would love to do that.
I would replace this with one of those in a heartbeat.
I wonder if we'd have to just move the ruler, if the things could be, if the dials could be moved enough. I don't know how much play there is with that, but that'd be cool.
Well, it's about that thick.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 inches thick.
Yeah, I don't know.
3/4, something like that.
Figure that out.
But each face has a T-track.
Yeah.
The top has a T-track. The side.
No, yeah, they're awesome.
And
it's awesome for making jigs making 10-inning jigs for it and just clip it down.
Even drilled holes in the face of it, blocked it off, and put a vacuum onto them.
Yes, yeah, I have seen that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And suck the wood right to it.
That's interesting. No, I'm totally game for that. What else at Harbor Freight's actually worth it?
The little blue bar clamps.
So those are my original clamps that I got when I first started. Those little crappy aluminum ones.
No, not those.
So those are good if you put a piece of oak inside them because they're hollow. You can put a piece of oak and screw them in, and that actually makes them rigid for what they are because they were so cheap.
Yeah,
they were.
I don't like the screw part of it.
I mean, I crack them,
but the ones that you have on your roller rig, the blue ones.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're like pony clamps, but you look at a pony clamp now, and they're like.
Dude, they suck now.
$15 a piece.
Dude, so I have those new ones. The longer pony ones that are hanging from there are the new ones.
Yeah.
The bar is so much smaller. The actual steel bar is so much smaller, and they flex like crazy. They do not have the clamping pressure that the older ones did, at all.
Yeah.
And they are literally. I just saw them at Lowe's yesterday. For a 2-foot one is $48. I was like, you got.
But did you see the parallel jaw clamps at the Harbor Freight?
I did see them.
Those are awesome. And they've gotten massively good reviews.
Mark Spagnola he did a whole review on them. He beat the crap out of them for a month, and actually threw them on the floor, dropped them, but used them in all of his projects for a month to actually get a legitimate review and not. Wow, look, I tried to break it and I broke it. That's not a good test. But he said that they're totally worth the money.
So those blue bar clamps, the one thing I have to say about them, I love them.
Yeah.
Because you can get them for the 6 inches or $2.99.
Yeah, right.
But you always have to check the threads.
Yeah.
Because I've had ones
where pop where they don't tighten anymore.
They don't tighten because the inside threads of it
they start wearing
are too big.
Yeah.
They've machined too much away from it.
Yep.
So you have to check that. Otherwise, if it's good, I don't think I've broken one. I've bent a few, but
outside of the popping, one. And that's a small subset of how many we've had in here over the years. We just use them for a lot of things. I mean, we have them up in the ceilings, holding pieces of wood up. We have we use them all over.
Jake used them to keep his cap on the truck.
That's what I mean. I think Gumby has 6 of them in there for various uses. No, the clamps are good. The dust collector's good. The bandsaw is crap. The central machinery stuff is bad. That's just bad. Outside of the dust collector, which I think is central machinery. They have a great
selection of casters.
The casters are great. Actually, it is cheaper. It's cheaper to buy one of their furniture dollies and take the casters off than to buy casters at Home Depot.
Yep.
Because the casters themselves are cheaper.
Now, just to skip over for Home Depot, the 3-inch squeeze clamps, the metal.
Yeah.
They've got a gray rubber
HDX or something
like that. That is the best deal going. They are 99 cents a piece.
Those big ones? That's not bad. For the 3-inch ones? That's not bad.
Well, or 2. I think they're 2 inches. Okay. Whatever. Not the small ones, but the middle.
If it's bigger than that, I'm using a regular clamp anyway.
Right.
So.
Oh, they look like a vice grip, but they're a C-clamp jaw.
Oh, I love those.
They used to have ones that were like 18 inches deep.
Yeah.
You could have those. They had a a 24-inch bar clamp that reached into the center of tables that you could tighten up.
Oh, that's cool.
What else?
Join us for our ADHD journey.
Their one multi screwdriver is pretty good.
Nice.
Where the tips are held in the handle.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have like
drill bits there suck.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Even the ones, the Bauer and the Hercules and all those.
Yeah, no,
they suck.
All the screws are stronger than them. I honestly don't even think any of those bits are hardened. I don't think they're hardened at all because they literally chip off if you look at them wrong. And they just, those are bad. Those are really bad. I've gotten the sets of bits that they sell where they give you like 10 of these, 10 of these, and they're just absolute trash.
Now they're like all in one kit set for driver bits.
Mm-hmm.
So it has all the little safety ones, like the one that it's like a star drive with a hole in it.
Yeah.
Or it has all the like safety ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a great deal because it's like $20. Well, whereas if you were to go to Northern or Granger or any of those, they're a fortune, and you might not even get the whole set.
Well, the consumable stuff there is also awesome. The blankets.
Yes.
The blankets are great. They got shop towels. They're fine. The HVLP guns, the spray guns that we use, the gravity fed guns that we use are great because they are, I think, $15, but for $2 more, you get insurance on them and you can take them back as many times as you want if something gets stuck in there. So essentially, if I go and I spray shellac and then I come back the next day and it's jammed, I take it back and they give me a new gun.
Nice.
And they can keep on doing that over and over. So we've bought our last guns because we're always going to return them now.
I had them and I considered them disposable.
They are.
I was spraying some high-end urethanes, two-part urethanes and epoxy.
It's one and done.
The epoxy is abrasive.
Yeah.
It destroys the gun.
Mm-hmm.
A gallon of the thinner for that particular epoxy is over $100.
Yeah.
It is cheaper just to get a new gun at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Than it is
to clean it out.
Thinner.
Absolutely.
Clean it out.
Absolutely.
I do recommend with those guns that you take a little bit of lacquer thinner, you swirl it in a cup, you run it till it's coming out clean because they are very oily.
Yeah. Yeah, those first couple of passes, you're wondering why it's like running.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, yeah.
But it also affects the finishes.
Yep.
But what else?
Oh, yeah. So I got one to spray shellac on this and the table base.
Nice.
To change the color of it. So
I was using a lot of water-based. Well, a water-based gun is a fortune.
Yep.
It was actually easier for me to buy them. Now, where you would normally use, your grease and your oil for your seals and all them for a normal gun, do you know what you use for when you're using water-based? The packing nuts and all that?
Yeah.
KY.
Nice.
Just have a tube of KY jelly and just lube the...
That's what you told people. That's why that was in the shop.
Yes. Well, I ended up taking the tube and I wrapped it with blue tape just so that it wasn't like, what the hell is that? But everybody makes the mistake. The back packing nut comes loosened.
Oh, nice.
So you have to tighten that. You should grease it. But if you don't tighten it, what happens, you're spraying, you'll get about 3 or 4 feet and it'll pulse.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's letting some air through or whatever it is. It has enough of a suction in there to let some air in.
Yep.
If that packing nut is not tightened, and it drives people nuts because they can't figure out why.
Yeah, they think there's a clog somewhere else.
Yeah. But it's actually just around that packing nut around the needle that you have to.
That's funny.
Tighten up.
Nice. All the little insider tricks.
Yes. But the guns are great. The detailing gun is nice.
Yeah, the little guy.
The little airbrush.
Yep.
So if you're doing an install, say you have a painted project, you've dinged it coming into the house, you can do a little bit of patchwork, sand, and do a spot hit with
That's
the
not
little
bad.
airbrush, and it's great.
How have you ever used? I don't know if I would trust a lathe from there.
There's really not much to go wrong with them. They do run okay.
They gotta just be centered and like actually running true and spinning evenly.
They usually do.
I don't know, man.
It's a good starter lathe.
So that's the thing. So that was one of my things. The turning classes are kind of a unique thing because I kind of would need to get 8 of the exact same lathe. And I don't know how to do that
like
outside of buying them new. Like you're trying to find a school that's closing down. It's pretty rare to buy all the lathes. But
if you go with the little mini lathe jets, they're really nice. They're reasonably priced. They're uniform.
Well, like
they're
$400 or $500 a piece.
I don't even think they're that.
Really?
They're small lathes.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. It's just gonna be bowls.
And what people do is it's a great teaching tool. And you can have multiple people in an area that are set up.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you had that thing, that
Power Matic's huge. That's a big one.
Well, that's not huge. I'll show you.
I know it's not huge.
I
relatively.
would love to have
that's huge compared to the little jet ones.
Have you ever seen the one-way lathes? It's actually extruded pipe that they've built the lathe off of. These things are tanks.
That's awesome.
And they come with the best accessories. You can even get like vacuum clamps for the chuck.
That's cool as hell.
You can get anything you want. You can get to them, and you can extend them.
That's pretty
cool. If you
wanted
to turn this, you can get another section of this piping and extend it for 50 feet if you wanted to.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Well, I mean, we're at an hour, just like
really,
just like that.
All about Harbor Freight.
All about Harbor Freight. But we introduced two more tiers on Patreon. So we still have Keith. Keith's our man over at Blackthorn Concepts. He's our first paid patron, and he's very lonely and wants more people. But now you have other options. We got $2 a month, $5 a month. Various benefits with those things. We'd like to hear, suggestions for things to talk about in the show instead of figuring it out 5 minutes before we start recording.
Have you had anybody call, message you about this?
Not yet. I've talked to people about it. I actually meet more people at Little League that say that they have been listening to the show.
How did they find out about it?
I have no idea. I really don't.
You have to ask.
I don't know how they found it, but this is pretty cool.
If next time you meet somebody like that, you ask them, well, how did you hear about it?
Yeah.
Because if they're hearing it at Little League, somehow it's getting through.
It is. Locally, it's permeating somehow, but whatever. That's good. But Keith is very bored being the only paid patron. He wants more. All the proceeds are going to getting equipment and everything that's going into getting the doors open in this makerspace. We have our logo. We're getting merch in. We're getting shirts made and some hats made and some other fun stuff. And we'll get this. I got that shirt. I'll bring it in. I got my rock paper scissors table saw shirt. It's a good one. But if you want to support the show, support the podcast, support the makerspace, go to patreon.com/Monco Makers. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere else. You can find us.
On YouTube or Instagram where you have it. Is there, because it's just the picture.
Yeah.
Is there a way to rotate pictures?
I can pick the picture per episode, so I can change it up.
But you can't do video. You can't do.
So with Patreon, you can. Patreon, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do stuff that's only for paid members. So a lot of the podcasts do an after show that is only for paid members. So it's another where they talk about some secret stuff or whatever, or they just keep talking. But either way,
I should have kept the KY trick to myself.
The KY stuff, that should have been a private after show type thing. But at this point, only Keith would know about it. But
you did say he was lonely.
He is very lonely. You know what, Keith? We'll send you a bottle of KY with the shirt and the other special projects we're going to make you. Nice. All right. Now you're going to be getting quite a ridiculous package sent to your door. But
how many people have been listening to these now?
It's
Are we gaining viewers?
It's gaining every week. We're getting more and more people. Yeah.
How many?
Honestly, I don't know, because that's the thing. We're still new enough because we're only 12 episodes in that people start from the beginning and they binge it. And so they go all the way. So every week, more people have listened to episode 1 and just keep building up. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So I appreciate all the support that we're getting. If you can share it on Instagram, tell your friends, any nerd who likes wood and woodworking or is in the Philly area or whatever, reach out and send them the links to our show. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Later.